That's right. We are right here, Sharp Facets Gallery this morning. Gosh, it's the sun is shining. It's a beautiful day out here, and it is, excuse me, my very great honor to have retired Lieutenant Colonel James Dominick right here with us. He's retired from the U.S. Army. I tell you what, he has gotten all kinds of awards throughout his time in the military. And I'm going to have to pull things out of him this morning, folks, because he just doesn't know why I even want to talk to him. But you know, and we're glad you know. Lieutenant Colonel Jim Dominick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ann. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Absolutely. We're going to have a good time. We're going to be talking about his life, what he has done, but also we're going to be talking about the Hall of Heroes and the 501c corporation that is now been formed down there at the Veteran Center right here in Uptown Greenwood. So stay tuned. We're going to have a good time. But gosh, you have done something that I'll bet most kids looking back, or even kids at that time, would have loved to have been able to do, and that was working on the Apollo project, being part of that. That had to be a fascinating time in your life.
That was probably one of the most fascinating times because as you know, back during that period, the space program had just been initiated by Kennedy, and when he was, prior to his assassination, he had said that he wanted us to be on the moon within 10 years, and we were able to, the United States was able to accomplish that. It was a fascinating time of the country's period.
I think everybody was enthralled with the space program and the idea of putting somebody on the moon. Now, what exactly, how did you get into doing the space program? How did you get to work with the space program?
When I had graduated from the University of Georgia, I went into the Army through the ROTC program. I was assigned at that time to Fort Gordon, and I was scheduled to go back to Fort Bragg with the 18th Airborne Corps. I heard about an assignment. At that time, there was a very new assignment that was in a unified command, U.S. Strike Command, and it was in Tampa, Florida. I thought that anyone in the Army that got assigned to Tampa, Florida, it had to be sitting on the beach. It was erroneous thinking, but nevertheless, that's what a young man thinks at that time. I applied for that position and got it. And when I went to the command, sometime later, I applied for another position, which was being I was selected for a position of being the officer in charge of a Joint Airborne Communications Center command post, known as a jackpot. There were only 3 of these teams in the United States Army at that time. All 3 were there at McBeal Air Force Base. And it was at that point that we worked with NASA, among many other assignments throughout the area.
So, Jim, I got to ask you, I'll bet you're real good at keeping a secret.
The Army thought so.
Since you've gotten out of the Army, have you gotten less good at it? I mean, have you decided the heck with keeping all these secrets after you had to sign, I'm sure, and close all those doors? But at that time, I bet you knew a lot of stuff that was just, when you look back on it, has to be unbelievable to have been part of that.
It was an exciting time, and it was so interesting in the fact that so much was going on throughout the world at that time. We had our war in Vietnam. We had so many coup d'etats taking place around the world that most people never knew about. So many activities that the Department of Defense was involved in that mainly were not public knowledge.
It certainly is different today, isn't it, Jim? I mean, what do you think, looking at how things were and how they are today?
I still think there's definitely a need for international and specifically national secrecy.
Sure.
We have to have that.
Does it bother you to see everything splashed all over the papers and the media all the time?
To an extent, yes, because I think as a citizen, we need to have transparency, but we don't need to know everything that's going on behind closed doors. No different than a business.
Sure.
No one needs to know everything that goes on in someone's private retail or
Sure.
public business.
Sure. Well, what was that famous phrase? Let's see. Does Macy's tell Gimbels what they're doing? Heck no!
Absolutely not.
That's right. And that's called, and that's how people got ahead, was having their secrets and being able to unveil it at a time that was appropriate according to them.
Well, the thing about it, all citizens want security.
Mm-hmm.
You and I want that. But we want to know everything that's going on. And that's not a realistic parallel.
Absolutely. It certainly is not. Hey, I am here with Lieutenant Colonel Jim Dominick here this morning. We're going to be talking about his life, what's happened, and putting in some comments about what's going on right now, because that's what we do. We talk, we have a conversation. I am Ann Eller. Hey, you stay tuned right here. If you've got a question, don't hesitate to pick up that phone, 229-7984. That's 229-7984. Back here with retired Lieutenant Colonel Jim Dominick, and we are talking about his life. He actually helped work on the Apollo space programs. Now, when you were working there, what exactly part of it were you doing? I know you weren't making the aircraft or the Apollo, so what exactly did you do, Jim?
My portion was that I was the officer in charge of what was called a Joint Airborne Communications Center Command Post, or it was known as a jackpot. It's one of the three that were in the military inventory at that time. All three were out of MacDill Air Force Base, U.S. Strike Command. My specific responsibilities was I was the responsible for the sub-rescue and recovery electronic communications in the MEAFSA area, which is Middle East, Africa, south of Sahara. So I was stationed on an island in the Indian Ocean, west of Africa, east of Africa, in the Indian Ocean, south of Burma, Vietnam.
Did we have any of? We didn't have any of them land there, though, did we? Or what? What
no,
was
that was not the mission.
Oh, okay. Well, then explain to me what was exactly the mission. Is that you were keeping in communication with the Apollo?
We had classified missions for being there.
Okay.
Which are still
classified. Are they still classified?
I suspect so.
Okay. Darn! I was hoping to get a secret here today. No, so you were working with it, but in the communication aspect.
In the communication aspect, we had circuits to Ramstein, Germany. We had circuits to Asmara, Ethiopia. We had circuits to MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida, United States, and obviously Department of Army in Washington.
Now, how big was the island?
It was a very small island. It was about the size of the distance from here to Lawrence would be about the distance.
And how many people lived there? Were I guess I should say stationed there.
The location that I was in was very, very few because I was at the end of a runway.
At the end of a runway.
Working there. That's where we were for many days. The probably on the island, I would just have to guess there were no more than a few thousand.
Wow, that was a lot of people then on that island, wasn't it? For the size of it.
For the one town was on the far distant end of the island, so I never had much interaction with that other than on one or two visits to.
How long were you there? How long were you there?
We would be there intermittently for up to 60 days or 30 days. Just depended on.
Oh, okay.
Just depended on.
You didn't stay long periods of time there.
No, we went throughout the region.
Throughout the region. Oh, okay. All right. Well, we are here talking with retired Lieutenant Colonel Jim Dominick, and talking about his life. Now, I just got to go back and ask you. You went to the the college, the military college.
Georgia Military College in
Right.
Milledgeville, Georgia.
Milledgeville, Georgia. And when you were growing up, what did you want to be in life? What were you thinking about?
Well, my family was in medicine and pharmacy, and I had obviously been raised in that. Like most children during that period, you
Helped out.
You helped out at whatever business your family was in. But I felt that I probably would not be going into that area, and I, like many 18-year-olds, didn't really know which arena I might go into or what line of work, but I felt it might be some type of industry.
And now your family had always been military family, correct? Your family was a military family? Your dad had been in the military?
No, actually not.
No?
My father was, when he graduated from college, went right on into pharmacy.
Pharmacy. Oh, okay. All right. So you went to why did you go to the military college then? Military college.
Well, partly at the urging of my father.
Okay.
He felt that perhaps that might be in line with what I needed. And I knew that I would be going somewhere probably either in Georgia or Florida because they were on the quarter systems.
Mm-hmm.
And unlike South Carolina at that time, South Carolina, Clemson, Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
Citadel, Furman, most of those schools back then were all on the semester system. And the quarter system was a system that I felt that was more in keeping with what I liked.
Jim, are you saying you had a shorter attention span?
Of course.
Okay. All right. I was just thinking, why would somebody pick that? But that's an interesting idea. So when you came out of college, you
Went right into the military. I had was in the ROTC program, so I knew I was going right in. That was during the period back in the mid-'60s when Vietnam was very hot, and that was what was going on at that time, as we all remember.
Sure.
But I knew that I would be going into the military.
So.
And,
So then you got assigned to doing these secret projects here, communications, I guess.
I was a signal officer.
Yeah,
I went
okay.
to Fort Gordon, which was the United States Army Southeastern Signal School.
Okay.
And it was at that point, as I said a moment ago, I was scheduled to go back to the 18th Airborne Corps, which was at Fort Bragg, the 82nd Airborne. And I heard about this assignment in Florida, and I applied for it, and it was a jump slot, so there really wasn't that much difference as far as young new officers don't get preferential treatment.
Sure.
I just happened to pick the right button at that moment.
Wow.
I was blessed by the Almighty.
Absolutely. Fascinating stuff. Jim, you also were did a lot of briefings to a lot of important people across time. Some of the people that you briefed, you want to just tell us a few? We're going to have to go to the news in about a minute and a half. So how about just tell us some of the people that you briefed?
Well, obviously in this particular slot that I had, I briefed numerous senior military officers.
Mm-hmm.
I briefed numerous 3- and 4-star generals. I, throughout the world, had the opportunity to brief numerous foreign dignitaries and 2 kings, King Hussein of Jordan and Crown Prince, later King Fahd of Saudi Arabia. Those were a few. It was very exciting and fascinating and interesting and
Absolutely.
many times frightening period.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to, when we come back, we're going to talk some about some of the people that you talked to, that you were giving briefings. I know with some you were able, just like I get to in this job, you actually developed, you got to find out more about them as people, not just as giving a briefing and you've said your piece and walk out the door and you're done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's some of the fascinating stuff that's out there. I know that I sincerely enjoy my job, being able to interview and talk to people and develop relationships with people that if I wasn't in this job, I probably would never have the opportunity to do. So when we come back after the news, we will continue our conversation with retired Lieutenant Colonel James Dominick. And by the way, I need to thank you for your service to our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back. Don't you go away.
Arg, are you a pirate or a pack rat? Do you have a vacation of a lifetime sitting in the attic? Or a college tuition hung on a wall? Or is a fabulous retirement hidden in your jewelry box? Bring those items to Sharp Facets Gallery. We can establish value and buy from you or sell for you. And so ends another chapter at Sharp Facets Gallery. 72 Bypass and on the web, sharpfacets.com.
Oh, that's right. We're right back here, Sharp Facets Gallery, having a fascinating conversation with retired Lieutenant Colonel Jim Dominick right here on WCRS. And, you know, you and I were just talking off the air about some of the things that the space program, of course, brought us and how rudimentary everything was compared to the technology that we have today, and yet how fascinating it was to be part of that. I mean, you had to be the envy of everybody out there to be in that position, or of all the people that were working on the space program then.
I don't know how enviable anybody was of what the specific forward area task that I was assigned, or my 11-man team and units were assigned. But at any rate, the space program was certainly a period that was very fascinating, and as you and I were talking about just a moment ago, how much changes have been brought about because of the space program, not just in our electronic arena, but our healthcare arena, all of the, certainly when we had perhaps during that period maybe one bird that we could shoot at that was that we had a satellite signal going to. In today's time, I would imagine there may be hundreds of them out there that have been taken up in the last 40 plus years. And so with all of the circuits that we have that are all satellite controlled, is all because of obviously the space program. And we look at even our smartphones that the young people have today, or that all of us have options of, that is so far advanced from what we would have even imagined when I was in college. When I was in college, unless you were an electronic engineer, you didn't get, I suspect you did not get a lot into that type of even thought.
Well, I know Jeff, my husband, has talked about how the computers took up a whole room, you know, and the memory was very, very small compared to what we have today.
At the University of Georgia, we had our computer class was in a building that was probably half the size of a football stadium. And it was also had the temperature down at 42 degrees, it seemed like, to keep the equipment cool.
Right.
I think IBM was probably one of the proponents of all of on the leading edge at that time.
That would be cutting edge at that
That's
time, right? Yeah.
That's right, the cutting edge of that. But the computer courses that I took were in very, very cold areas as far as the practical exercises, and as Jeff said, that the programs were
huge,
unbelievable.
Huge rooms that, and they didn't have half the memory that we have the ability to do today. You know what seems most interesting to me is how fast things are changing, and while things were changing then, there wasn't any comparison, was there, to how fast it's moving today?
Absolutely. If you think of how things have changed just in your adult life as compared to our parents and grandparents' entire life.
Sure.
It's unbelievable, the technology that has come about and how impressive it is and how beneficial it is in so many respects.
Sure. One of my, do you remember Tang? Tang, the orange juice,
Yeah,
the
yes,
drink
right,
of
that's right.
astronauts, yes.
Absolutely.
Tasted terrible, but we were so proud to be able to have Tang.
Well, you think about many of the fountain pens at that time.
Yeah,
That came about because of the space program.
Writing
because they
upside
had-
down, yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah, exactly. So lots of inventions and lots of things that have been moving forward. I can't imagine how exciting it must have been to have every day to have gotten up and say, I wonder what's going to happen today. Of course, you had Vietnam going on, so you lived in a very turbulent time. And you were telling me that you briefed different King Hussein and some others. Now, of all the people that you met during this, and I know that in a briefing, you're just giving a briefing, they don't have to have conversation with you, but which ones that did you feel that you actually got to know?
Well, I felt that as far as the very top-ranking personnel, obviously King Hussein was the most personable.
Mm-hmm.
He was very inquisitive. He asked numerous questions. He had dialogue back and forth. He asked.
Did that surprise you the first time he said something back to you?
Absolutely. You don't expect to have conversations or certainly a question, because obviously you want to make sure you've got the answers, but obviously you are someone at that level.
Right.
Obviously does not have to get details. They simply say, I want this or I want that, or get it done to his subordinates, and things happen.
Sure.
But he asked specific questions, and we had several on-the-spot requirements that he asked that we had to comply with quickly to share with him this technology. And it was a command and control environment, and that's what he was most interested in, and how his militia and his armies could be best managed.
Sure. Now, you also were telling me how, of course, he was married. He had an American wife, and you thought that gave him more maybe interest in America and the United States. But he also was at odds a little bit with some of the others because of this.
Absolutely. He had gone outside the comfort zone that they felt, and obviously he had married a very beautiful American lady, and was his environment was expanding worldwide, where theirs was perhaps more regional.
Sure. And so when you spoke to the king, was there any special protocol where you had to, when you spoke to the king? Or just because it was military, you just said, I'm here to report, sir?
Well, it wasn't exactly like that, but nevertheless, obviously, it's a great deal of respect that one has to show.
Sure.
And one has to have, and but he was very
Personable?
personable and comfortable to be with, and different than some of the others.
Right. Now, who was your least favorite? See, we talked about your most favorite. Now, who was maybe your least favorite that you gave a briefing to, or that you just went, God, I'm glad I'm out of here. I've given my duty and I'm out of here?
I don't recall any specific least favorite that I could put on the air.
Put on the air? Oh, come on, Jim. That was a long time ago.
But obviously there were some that were taking just the information and would be just not really appearing to be that interested, other than you would share an information that you would share again with the people that were going to be utilizing it.
Sure.
And obviously there were dignitaries from different countries that were there to report to their superiors.
Sure.
At different locations.
Well, does this mean did you had, I guess you would say did you have better duty because you were being briefing dignitaries? I mean, did you eat any better? I mean, you know, were there any little perks to this job?
As far as when you were with those specific individuals, there was no, you didn't eat any better because you didn't share a meal with them.
I just wondered if they threw you a few scraps afterwards, Jim.
There were obviously in some areas that you might be in an area that was a classified area, so you the area was what it was,
Mm-hmm.
no better than anywhere else. It was an area. It was not like that we had the dinner with the President of the United States and shared conversation on electronics.
Okay. All right. I was just curious. I'm always looking at this. Now, what about as far as anything that you look back on the Vietnam War and that period that you could share with us? Just memories that you have about it, maybe things that, when you sit here and talk, sometimes things pop up in your brain that you hadn't even thought about for years. Anything you can share to us? I mean, that was such a tumultuous period in our history, and we look back on it now. We had Vietnam vets coming home. They certainly weren't appreciated when they came home, and how do you look back and see that now?
I think about now as compared to then when every time that I was out of country and I would come back, I just really wanted to kiss the ground when I landed in the United States. But during that period, if you landed at a municipal airport or international airport and happened to be just in uniform or something, it was almost a disrespect. Today, specifically after 9/11, I think the country realizes that we are vulnerable, that things can happen right here in the United States, and certainly in this time when it's an all-volunteer Defense Department,
Sure.
the veterans are much more appreciated, and I'm so thankful for that, because they should be, and I'm thankful that in today's time the general population recognizes and appreciates the service that these young people today are sacrificing, just like they have throughout history.
Absolutely.
But at least in 2013, there's an appreciation.
There definitely is pride in our military, and I think that is such a good thing. I also think, though, Jim, that even South Carolina, I think, goes a little bit above and beyond for our military. Being a military state, we have even a deeper appreciation. Me being from Maine originally, I look back and I don't really remember much being said about the military. You just try to think back, and why didn't I have this connection that I have here in South Carolina? I think it has a lot to do with our state. Hey, I'm Ann Eller right here with a retired Lieutenant Colonel Jim Dominick. We're going to come back. We're going to be talking about the Hall of Heroes, the 501c corporation, things that are going on down there, things you're going to want to know, because it really is exciting what they have accomplished this last year. So don't you go away. We'll be right back. Oh, that's right. We're right back here live from Sharp Facets Gallery talking with retired Lieutenant Colonel Jim Dominick. And he has taken on a big project. In fact, when you started working on this, Jim, I'm sure at some point you wondered whether it was all going to come together, because it was tough. I happen to know that because we're involved with Veterans Hall of Heroes. But tell us a little bit about, you've now formed and gotten paperwork, which was the big deal, to be a 501c. Now, what does that exactly mean for the Hall of Heroes to be a 501c corporation?
What that basically means is that the individuals, number one, we're a nonprofit corporation. And number two, it means that individuals and corporations that make donations, and that's what we will be soliciting in the future, will be able to have that as a business expense that they can write off, and it will be a legitimate donation. We're very excited about that, because to give you a little bit of a history, about 12 months ago, Mr. Herbold asked me if I would look into and research and initiate some plans for trying to create an exterior memorial plaza in front of our current Greenwood County Veterans Center.
Which is at the old library.
At the old Greenwood Library, correct. Right. And at that time, I knew that'd be a very challenging assignment or request, but I knew that the several things had to take place. Number one, we had to have a nonprofit status. And we took several, basically what was done was there was a group of us met, and that was Mr. Bill Becker initially and Miss Sandra Johnson. on our board, we currently have a board of directors. Mr. Bill Becker, who's a retired Sergeant First Class from the United States Army. Mr. Chuck Fox, who is a retired Brigadier General from the United States Air Force. Ms. Sandra Johnston, who is the President of the Ladies Auxiliary of Veterans of Foreign Wars. Mr. Cliff Thomas, who is a civilian, who is a dynamic and energetic young business professional associate here in Greenwood at Bliss Funeral Home, and myself met, and we knew that we needed to have a nonprofit status, of which we met with two individuals that guided us through that period. Individuals that helped us. Miss Michelle Powers of the Powers Law Firm gave us legal advice, and Miss Laura Smith of a CPA with Elliott Davis gave us the accounting, and they guided us pretty much through that period. And it was, we knew we had to have a 501c, we knew we had to have a board of directors, we knew we had to have bylaws, and those things have now been accomplished. At the same time that that was going on, Miss Carol Scales was initiating and working with the museum, getting a museum committee. They've done fantastic work in creating that museum.
And they're always looking for donations.
They're always looking. They have some absolutely wonderful artifacts down there. They're constantly working and upgrading. That committee, and Ms. Scales has done a fantastic job.
They certainly have. In fact, the museum is now there and open right now, probably through Christmas. At first of the year, I think they plan to make a harder how they're going to do it. But they need volunteers for people to be there when the museum is open.
Absolutely, yes. They do.
So that's an excellent project. And you know, the beauty of this project, I just want to put this out here, is so many states. They start maybe World War I, World War II. We go all the way back to the Revolutionary War, which is pretty awesome for South Carolina to have that as a distinction of things that they're looking for from pre-revolutionary forward.
They've gotten a considerable amount of artifacts in there, and it's not only the artifacts, but they've got some electronic audio visuals. And it's going to be so exciting. We're very excited about what has been done with the museum. We're very excited about what we have planned for the exterior, for the plaza. We'll have granite pavers that we will be selling. And we're just excited about what the design is going to be. I think it will be a design. We've met with some major designers throughout that are world renowned, that have certainly have numerous ones around the United States, and we're just excited about what the plan is for the Veterans Hall of Heroes, Inc. there at the Greenwood Veterans Center.
Well, I think the thing about it is, number one, is one of the largest, I think it is the largest veterans center in South Carolina with what we have going on there. And the fact that we're going to have a complete and total center, it's going to rival anything anywhere. And it is right here in Greenwood, South Carolina.
It's right here in Greenwood, and I think it will make Greenwood has 5,100 veterans. And that means that out of the population, I think every family is touched by a veteran in some manner. It will be a point of pride to the entire community. It will show respect to the veterans. I think for these men and women who have given so much, it will be a point of pride for the entire community, and certainly the city and the county. And it will be something that hopefully will be envied by all.
Absolutely. And of course we have to thank Kerry Bolt for pushing the mountain through county council and getting this done. And you know, he had a vision, and it has come together. Mr.
Kerry Bolt and Miss Sandy West and Miss Teresa Mahaffey down at their office, they have just been fantastic. Miss Elise Benson has been an individual that has done considerable to help with our grants. We have just been blessed to have so many numerous individuals from around the county, that business personnel and volunteers to help with this. And so I'm just so excited about what the vision is. for
And
that
you can
son.
go to the Veterans Center any day and check it out and see what they have done. Of course, they handle, Kerry Bowles' office, the Veterans Affairs Office, handles a lot of claims and working with people. But they also have different organizations, have their meeting rooms there. Lander has their ROTC program there. So there is a lot going on there. And of course, they have this huge open space that can be used for events and whatnot too.
Absolutely. We were very blessed to have such a large building there. And of course, we've got the Hall of Heroes that are being shown on one wall now.
Now, you were inducted into the Hall of Heroes.
Yes, ma'am.
That was very nice. And very congratulations for that. We had a huge group this last year. That was back in September, where they honored veterans for the Hall of Heroes.
It's quite an honor.
It was quite an honor. And to see the group and to, you know what, I watched the whole ceremony, and I'm going to share something with you. As each one of you walked across that stage, everyone stood a little taller and was proud to be walking across that stage or being wheeled across that stage, as the case may be. But it was an honor to see all our men and women that went across that stage that day. And the room was packed, which I thought was a great honor to our veterans.
It was great. We did not, obviously, I expected, I had no idea what to expect. When I was notified, I was a recipient. I was very blessed and honored. But I think every man and woman there probably felt like the person on the right or the left deserved it more than they did.
Mm-hmm.
I know I certainly did. And I was just so privileged and felt so honored.
You know, that is the one thing about all our veterans. They are so humble and think that somebody else deserved it more than they did. But I tell you what, each and every one of our veterans deserves that honor. And you can, of course, put somebody in to be in the Hall of Heroes. And if you'd like to see, they did it back in 2013, 2011.
11, 12, and 13 were the classes that have come, that Mr. Careboat shared with me. Actually, there have only been 2 events, but I think a year or so ago was when the Vietnam Wall came.
2011, yes.
Kerry got that here, and that was a huge success, and obviously very.
It was very moving,
very moving,
and it was a great way for our Vietnam veterans who didn't have the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. to see the names on there and spend a moment or 2 or 3 remembering the guys and gals that they served with. And I think that is one of the most important things that was there. Thank goodness we were able to be part of that too. Now, we did want to put out, though, before we go off the air, and we're going to run over here a second, and gosh darn it, it's okay. Okay, but you are listening to WCRS right here in Greenwood. The pavers and the that are going to be out there, this is going to cover the whole front. In fact, what I wanted to say, Jim, don't you have a mock-up of what it's going to look like?
We certainly do. We have a drawing that is actually the one that has been selected by the board. We're going to be making presentations around to different civic organizations. We're going to be obviously presenting to county council the first of the year, hopefully. We've got drawings that we've elected to utilize. We'll be selling granite pavers, and we have those that they'll actually be anywhere from a 4-inch by 8-inch for $150, 24-inch by 12 inches by $500, and 24 inches by 24 inches for $750. And then we also have benches that we'll be selling for $5,800 on up. This project is a major project that is going to cost.
It's going to cost a lot of money.
It's going to cost a lot of money. So
Yeah.
it's going to depend. It's going to be driven by the donations that we receive from.
Well, I know a lot of people have been excited and have been waiting for the unveiling of this to be able to start helping.
They can start today.
And how does this work? Do they? What do they need to do?
They would simply decide what, make their checks out to the Veterans Hall of Heroes, Inc.
Mm-hmm.
Come by the Greenwood Veterans Center. They've got the information up there. Decide on what size they want, and they'll be given a receipt.
That'd be a good thing to do if you need a little tax donation between now and the end of the year.
Absolutely.
So it's a great time to be doing this.
Absolutely, it'd be a great thing to do right now, and we're just excited about what is in the vision for the future and what it's going to entail. And I think the entire Greenwood community will be so proud of this once it's accomplished.
Absolutely, it's going to be fabulous. Now, just very quickly, Jim, when you start taking in donations, how will this work as far as doing the pavers and everything? What type of time frame are we looking at? Any idea?
Well, obviously, at this point, we've got to raise the money
Sure.
before we can do the project.
Right.
So hopefully in 12 months we would be able to start doing something, but right now people are putting in buying the papers,
Sure.
or the benches or whatever.
And
and
these.
it might even be considerably sooner than that. It's all monetary driven.
Yes, and that's where I'll be helping you out, right here on the
That's
radio.
right.
Jim Dominick, Lieutenant Colonel Jim Dominick, it has been an utmost pleasure to have you on the
It's been a
radio.
pleasure to be here. I appreciate so much you inviting us, and I especially appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Veterans Hall of Heroes, Inc., and what's going on at the Greenwood Veterans Center, and with the everything that's going on down there with the museum, etc.
Absolutely. It's going to be, it already is fabulous. I'm telling you what, if you were in the old library and you've never been back to that building, you need to go. You will not recognize the building. It looks marvelous. They are looking for donations for the museum. They're there on Thursday afternoons between 1 and 3. And you can go ahead and start setting up for these granite pavers, benches, however you'd like to do it. I think we do need to say a big kudos out there to Woodmen of the World with the flagpoles that they put up and some of the things that they've done inside. But those flagpoles, I happen to know from personal experience, that was a project and a half to get those in there, but they sure look beautiful.
They're absolutely beautiful. We appreciate so much what the Woodmen of the World have done with that.
Absolutely. Well, Lieutenant Colonel Jim Dominick, again, thank you for your service and thank you for coming in and
Thank
sharing your life.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a privilege.
Thank you so much, Jim. Bye-bye, everybody. This is WCRS right here in Greenwood. Have a great day. I think we're going to try to play this back at 4, so stay tuned. If you missed it, tell your friends to tune in. That'll do it for me. Bye-bye, everybody.